The novel I read was Cracking the Aging Code, The New Science of Growing Old and What It Means for Staying Young, written by Josh Middledorf and Dorian Sagan. So I'll begin with a brief overview of the novel. So essentially, the novel Cracking the Aging Code attempts to discover the true causes of aging while exploring the evolutionary history of aging among organisms. The novel analyzes aging patterns among species across all ecosystems while investigating different mechanisms of aging found in organisms at different biological levels. Middledorf and Sagan compare recent studies and data to previous theories of aging in an attempt to explain why aging has been present in organisms for millions and millions of years. So basically, the novel was written in an attempt to rationalize the reasoning behind aging and its importance in ecosystems across the globe. So the main theme or thesis of the novel. So the author's main claim of the novel is that aging is considered to be programmed into our genes and has been maintained by natural selection, even though it decreases the overall fitness of the individual. The author attempts to explain this phenomenon by developing his own theory of aging and why it has stood the evolutionary test of time. To explain the presence of aging in organisms, the author states that aging makes possible stable ecosystems by leveling out the death rate. Death at a predictable, programmed time prevents the tragedy of everyone dying at once, extinction in famines or epidemics. So the author interprets aging as a method of stabilizing ecosystems, specifically in times of difficulty such as famine or drought. So the topics that are going to be discussed are: what is aging and can it be prevented? Methods of aging across multiple species of organisms. Why aging occurs. Theories of the evolutionary history of aging, and new theories of aging. Aging can be defined simply as the process of growing older. As we age, our cells and bodily systems become older over time. Some may believe that as we age, our body begins to wear out, but after examining more closely, we have discovered that our body doesn't simply wear out with mistakes until we reach the supposed limit. Our bodies have the ability to maintain and repair themselves when necessary, but stop doing so as we continue to age. The repair mechanisms that are efficient when we are young begin to slow down and deteriorate over time, allowing for mutations and other mistakes to accumulate. It seems as if aging is programmed into our genes, shutting off repair mechanisms at certain points and allowing damages to collect, leading to our death. So the next topic discussed was methods of aging found in different species. So after analyzing the aging patterns among organisms, it has been discovered that some organisms don't display any signs of aging at all, and others have even been found to age backwards. Organisms such as the lobster or the clam can continuously grow and develop without showing any signs of aging. As lobsters continue to grow and age, they become less likely to die, which is completely contrary to our current understanding of aging. It looks as if some organisms have the ability to continually repair and maintain their bodies, and continue to become more healthy and fertile as they mature. Other organisms, such as the cicada, experience minimal aging over an extended period of time, and then rapidly die after the reproductive cycle ends. Some organisms, such as the flatworm, retain the ability to consume itself until the only appendages left are the brain and the nervous system. As food is reintroduced, the worm is able to grow and develop again as if it was beginning its life all over. So overall, this evidence of aging among a range of species suggests that some method of aging has been transcribed into the genes of all organisms from a common ancestor dating back millions of years. So the next topic discussed was why aging actually occurs. So after analyzing methods of aging, the author goes on to discuss how aging occurs on a cellular level. Aging in organisms at the cellular level can be attributed to two things: telomeres and apoptosis. Telomeres are made up of short sequences of the nitrogenous bases TTA-GGG that are repeated thousands of times at the end of chromosomes. These telomeres ensure that any coding DNA of a chromosome isn't damaged or removed during the replication of chromosomes in preparation for cellular division. Telomeres are repaired by an enzyme known as telomerase, which is only activated during the embryonic stages of development. So without telomerase, telomeres continue to shorten with every division until they are completely depleted and coding DNA begins to damage with every replication. This is known as replicative senescence. This leads to a limit on the number of times in which a cell can replicate, known as Hayflick's limit, which was of course named after the famous scientist who discovered it, Leonard Hayflick. So with a limit to the number of times a cell can replicate without experiencing damage to DNA, the cell begins to accumulate damage until they experience apoptosis. Apoptosis is the programmed death of cells. When cells become damaged beyond repair, the cells begin to shut down internally, destroying themselves from the inside. This type of cellular suicide also contributes to the modern ideas of aging and how we as a species actually age. So the next topic discussed are the theories of the evolutionary history of aging and why it occurs. So right now there are currently three major theories of the evolution of aging among organisms. They are the mutation accumulation theory, the antagonistic pleiotropy theory, and the disposable soma theory. So the first theory discussed was the mutation accumulation theory. So this theory, developed on the basis of the experiments completed by Peter Medawar, states that aging is a result of the buildup of general mutations that contribute to aging but aren't eliminated through the process of natural selection. The theory's main claim is that the bad genes that only affect organisms later in life are preserved by natural selection in the lineage of the organism. So as these mutations accumulate in the lineage, they become ever more harmful with age. So an example to support this theory would be the E4 gene that causes dementia and heart disease in elderly people. Since the disease isn't present until later in life, the selection against this gene is relatively light, meaning it is allowed to continue to be passed down from generation to generation until it is eventually eliminated. But after examining experimental results, the author was able to rule out the mutation accumulation theory as a plausible theory to explain the evolution of aging. After completing research, it is clear that many organisms that seem distantly related have homologous genes for aging, meaning these aging genes are very old and were present in very distant ancestors. This completely disagrees with the mutation accumulation theory in that aging is caused by mutations of recent origins. If the mutations were from recent origins, distantly related organisms such as yeast cells and humans wouldn't have similarities in genes of aging from a common ancestor. The next theory discussed was the antagonistic pleiotropy theory. So this second theory presented in the novel basically claims that genes that regulate and control aging are in fact the same genes that enhance the fertility of the organisms earlier in life. But in order for this theory to be true, natural selection must not be able to separate the benefits of fertility from the harms of aging, which natural selection is usually able to do. Also, for this theory to be true, the gene must be able to carry an advantage and a cost to the organism, which is very rare to find. The most significant data available against this theory is the experiment completed with fruit flies. As fruit flies are left to reproduce and age, the oldest living members of the experimental population are chosen to reproduce and begin the next generation. As the longevity of each generation increased, so did its fertility, completely disproving the antagonistic pleiotropy theory. The third and final theory of aging mentioned in the novel is the disposable soma theory. The disposable soma theory suggests that the body of organisms undergo metabolic limitations over the course of the organism's lifetime. The theory states that, because of all of the necessary processes the body must undergo, there isn't enough energy for the body to repair damaged cells. This leads to an increase in the number of damaged cells and overall aging. The theory may seem logical and understandable, but there are many fallacies with this theory. After an experiment was completed with mice, it turns out that the less energy the mouse obtains and the more it burns, the longer the mouse survives. This evidence clearly contradicts the disposable soma theory and that a lack of energy available results in aging. Another interesting fact that only adds to the evidence against the disposable soma theory is that the body requires great amounts of energy to build and produce a fertile organism. To repair the organism, however, requires significantly less energy and resources than the creation of the organism. If this is true, why then should the body not be able to maintain itself with sufficient amounts of energy? So the disposable soma theory clearly has detrimental flaws in its thinking. So after analyzing the popular theories of the evolution of aging, the author presents his own theories of aging and its purpose in organisms throughout ecosystems across the globe. The author believes that aging has been present in organisms for millions of years in order to stabilize communities and prevent species from overpopulating. At this point, it is evident that aging has a negative impact on individual organisms and their fitness. But from a group standpoint, aging benefits the community fitness as a whole. Aging allows for the stabilization of ecosystems as a result of leveling out of the death rates. aging ensures that populations will be stable and secure in the face of an epidemic. So to conclude with this new theory of aging, a quote can be used to sum up the reasoning behind the preservation of aging in organisms. As the author states, excessive growth leads to extinction, and natural selection has built safeguards for ecological stability into the genome of almost all animal species. So my main takeaway from this novel is that aging is a necessary component of life that allows human beings to flourish upon this planet. Without aging, our community as a whole would destabilize and collapse in the face of disaster. Repopulation would almost be impossible, as resources would be close to depleted. So aging seems to be one of the most important evolved mechanisms in organisms that allows ecosystems to maintain a sense of stability. Though aging itself is detrimental to the individual, it provides the generations to come with the time and resources to develop and survive. After reading this book, I can say that I don't look at death anymore as a horrific ending to life, but as a necessary part of life that ensures the survival of generations to come. As for recommendations, I would recommend this novel to anyone interested in discovering why our lives must come to an end. Whether you're familiar with biology and the science of aging, or you're just interested in the everyday occurrence of aging that everyone experiences, this book provides insightful information to anyone willing to learn more about the science of aging.